Hey, sixth grade, I hope all is well. Today for math, we're going to be talking about extracting the square root. This is going to cover pages 281 through 282 in your textbook. So finding the square root is the opposite of squaring a number. Remember, when we square a number, it's a number times itself. So 5 times 5, 4 times 4, and so on. A perfect square is a number whose square root is the whole number. The symbol for a square root is the radical sign, which is kind of like a division bar, but with like a little check mark. This right here, this radical sign with a 4, is read as the square root of 4. So it gives us a few examples in the book. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. 2 times 2, 2 squared is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. 4 squared is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. 5 squared is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. 6 squared is 36. The square root of 36 is 6. For this section in the book, it's going to be super important that you know your multiplication facts. Because if you know your multiplication facts, it'll be a lot easier to figure out if a number has a perfect square or not. If you know that, 9 times 9 is 81, then you should be able to figure out the square root of 81. Okay, so 1a, it has some squaring and some square roots. So 1a, 7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49. The square root of 49, the easiest way to think of it is what number times itself equals 49, and that would be 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 squared, 8 times 8 is 64. The square root of 64 is 8. 9 squared, 9 times 9 is 81. The square root of 81 is 9. 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. 1/2 squared. So with these, we just square each part. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So 1/2 squared, 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. The square root of 1/4, what times itself equals 1/4, would be 1/2. The same with k. 2/3 squared, 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. 2/3 squared equals 4/9. And the square root of 4/9 is 2/3. Okay, then we have some word problems. We have that the area of a square is 36 feet squared. How long is each side? Well, we know that the formula for area of a square is side squared. So basically it wants to know, it's asking, what is the square root of 36? Well, 36, I can figure out what number times itself equals 36. That is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. So each side of the square would be 6 feet long. Okay? And then on B, we have that the radius squared is 81 meters squared. What is the diameter? Well, first I've got to figure out what the radius is. This says that the radius squared is 81 meters squared. So I want to know what is the square root of 81. Well, we know that that is 9. So the radius equals 9. So what is the diameter? Well, the radius is half of the diameter. So then we just do 9 times 2, which would be 18, and it would be meters. That is how long the diameter would be. Okay, on 4, we have some degrees, latitude, and it wants to know how far those are away from the equator. As a reminder, yesterday we talked about how to figure out how far it is away from the equator, you just times that number by 69. So 24 times 69, 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 2 is 18, 19, 20, 21. 0. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 6, 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 plus 2 is 6, 1. So it would be 1,656 miles. Please try to remember to include your unit, which is miles. Okay, on B, 35 degrees south of the equator. So 35 times 69. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 4 would be 31. 0. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20, 21. 5, 1, 3 plus 1 is 4, 2. So it would be 2,415 miles south of the equator. Okay, C, 58 degrees south. So 58 times 69. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 plus 7 will be 52. 0. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 4 is 34. Sorry, that 4 isn't very clear. Okay, 2, 8 plus 2 is 10. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 4 is 10. 3 plus 1 is 4. So it would be 4,002 miles south of the equator. Okay, and then 43 degrees north. So 43 times 69. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36, 37, 38. 0. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24, 25. 7. 8 plus 8 is 16. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 5 is 9, and then 2. So this one would be 2,967 miles north of the equator. Okay, and then for the next section, we have some Fahrenheit and Celsius conversions. For 5A, we're taking 30 degrees Celsius and making it Fahrenheit. So my formula for that is 9/5 times C plus 32. So 9 over 5 times, my degrees is 30. So 30 over 1. Well, and then I'm going to eventually add 32. I can simplify that. 5 goes into both. It goes into that once. Goes into that 6 times. 9 times 6 will be 54 plus 32. 2 plus 4 is 6. 3 plus 5 is 8. Be 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, B, we have 58 degrees Fahrenheit. My formula for that is 5 ninths times the quantity F minus 32. So first I would do 58 minus 32. 8 minus 2 is 6. 5 minus 3 is 2. So then I would multiply that by 5 ninths. So 5 over 9 times 26 over 1. Cannot simplify, so I just have to multiply. So I'm going to come over here and do 26 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So it would be 130 over 9. Well, I'm just going to divide that. So 130 divided by 9. 9 into 13 goes once, which is 9. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down your 0. 9 into 40 is 4. 4 times 9 is 36. Subtract 4. I've added decimal. Bring down my 0, and that's going to be 0.4 repeating. We're rounding to the nearest whole number, so 14.4 rounded to the nearest whole number is just 14. So it'll be 14 degrees Celsius. Okay, 19 degrees Celsius. I'm using that blue formula again. So 9/5 times 19 over 1. Cannot simplify. I'm going to come up here and do 19 times 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 8 is 17. So it's going to be 171 over 5 plus 32. So 171 divided by 5. 5 into 17 goes 3 times, which is 15. Subtract. You get 2. Bring down your 1. 5 into 21 goes 4 times, which is 20. Subtract, you get 1. Add a decimal. Bring that 0 down. 5 into 10 is 2 times. Since we're rounding to the nearest whole number, 34.2 rounded to the nearest whole number is 34. So 32 plus 34, 6 would be 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, on 6, it is doing area or perimeter for different shapes. 6b, we have a triangle and it wants to know the area. Well, if I have a triangle, my formula for area is 1/2 base times height. I can change the order of these up, and because it's multiplication, it doesn't matter. So 1/2 is easier to find. A 4 be a nice whole number. So 1/2 of 4 is 2 times my base is going to be 5. 2 times 5, which would be 10 feet. Because this is area, it is 10 feet squared. Okay, and then C, it wants to know perimeter of a rectangle. My formula for that, P equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. Well, just sub those in. P equals 16 times 2 be 32. 12 times 2 be 24. 32 plus 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. 3 plus 2 is 5. 56 feet. And since it is perimeter, we do not need to square it. It's just 56 feet. Okay. Then it wants to do, for 7, diameter, circumference, and area of a circle. There are several more, but I just want to make sure you know how to do this because some of us are still getting our area and circumference formulas mixed up. So the first thing we need to do is our diameter. If I know my radius is 2.5, I just double that. My diameter is 5. Circumference, C equals pi times diameter. So 3.14 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2 is 12. Or sorry, 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. 1, 2, 1, 2. So my circumference would be 15.7 feet. My area for my formula for my area is A equals pi r squared. Well, r will be 2.5. So the first thing that I need to do is square r. So 2.5 times 2.5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 0. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Be 5, 2, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2. So r squared is 6.25. Now I take my 6.25 and I times it by pi. So times 3.14. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10. 4 times 6 is 24, 25. 0, 1, so be 5, 2, 6, 2 zeros. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, 0, 5. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 6 plus 7 is 13. Plus 2 is 15. Plus 1 is 16. 8 plus 1 is 9, and then 1. Then we gotta move our decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My area would be 19.625 feet and Since it's area, it has to be squared. Right? 8a, 60% of 12 pages is what it's wanting to know. Well, I would just do 12 times, and I'd have to make this a decimal. 60% as a decimal is 0.6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. I have 1 decimal point. Let's move that over. So it would be 7.2 pages. Okay, and then B, the area of Africa is approximately 11,700,000 miles squared, and there are approximately 80 people per square mile. It wants to know what Africa's approximate population is. Well, if I have 11,700,000 miles and 80 people per square mile, then I'm going to divide. So I'm going to do 11,700,000 divided by 80. I want to know how many times 80 goes into that. Okay, 80 into 117. Well, I know that that's going to be once. 1 times 80 is 80. Subtract. 7 minus 0 is 7. 11 minus 8 is 3. Bring down my 0. It is super important in this problem that we keep our numbers lined up. Okay, 80 into 370. Well, I know that if I did 8 into 37, I know that 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 4 is 32. So 4 times 80 would be 320. Subtract, you get 50. These are already not really lined up very well. This 4 goes over that first 0. So bring down the second 0. 80 into 500. Well, if I use the same strategy as before, I'm trying to get to 500. I know that 8 times 6 is 48. So 6 times 80 would be 480. Subtract, you get 20. Bring down this 0. 80 into 200 would be twice, would be 160. If you subtract, I'm going to have to move this over here because I'm running out of room. Be 40. Then bring over this 0. 80 into 400 would be 5. 5 times 80 would be 400. Subtract, you get 0. Bring down this 0. 80 into 0 is 0. So, I know it's a little hard to read that. I'll rewrite it. My answer, oops, there are approximately 146,250 people. Which, timeout. I don't believe I actually did that one correctly. I don't believe I paid attention to what it asked. So, let me go back to that page in the book, 281 to 282. And I did that wrong because it was supposed to be multiplying. That would be if, that wouldn't be if anything, really. I just kind of messed that one up. It's fine, though. We'll re-solve it. So, there are 80 people per square mile. I should have realized that that was multiplication. Per and of are typically multiplying. So, let's try that again. 11,700,000 times 80. Well, 0 times everything is 0, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Add your 0. 8 times 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 8 times 7 would be 54. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 5 would be 13. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So then we add our commas in where they need to go. And our actual answer will be 934 million people in Africa. Everyone makes mistakes. Teachers are not immune to that. But it was easy enough to figure out that I made a mistake because I should have known that if there are 80 people per square mile and there's 11,700,000 miles, then I should have more people than miles. And this was less people than miles. That's how I knew that it was wrong. So I realized I had solved it incorrectly. That is one of the most important things we can learn in math. Not just how to solve these, but when did we make a mistake? Because we will make mistakes. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So when they happen, we need to be able to recognize them. And if we can't figure out that we made a mistake, then we're going to keep solving them incorrectly. Because if I solved the next one the same way I solved this one, well, then that one would be wrong too. So I hope all this is making sense. Really, the main thing we were talking about today is our square roots. Make sure you're brushing up on your multiplication facts if you struggle with those, because that's going to be the easiest way to solve these. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.